Welcome to episode 25 of the Mobile Classroom, the weekly video podcast where we demonstrate today's most popular technologies. I'm James Messer, and this week we're going to dive into a great little note-taking application called Evernote. I've been using Evernote for a number of months now to organize a lot of different things, and I'm just finding uses for it all the time. I'll realize that I'll be able to use new functionalities, store some information, search through a spreadsheet, and really have a central collaboration tool that I can use not just for myself, but for others as well. If you're watching this podcast, you'll notice that this entire podcast is absolutely free. You can watch it from the very beginning to the very end and see every bit of content in there. But if you've watched our podcast for a while, you'll know that every third podcast is exclusive just for mobile members. So if you watched our podcast last week, that was a mobile member podcast, and you're only able to get a preview version of that. If you become a mobile member, you'll be able to, of course, see every podcast every week. If you are also a mobile member on our themobileclassroom.com website, then you'll notice you also have another advantage of being able to see every podcast in full HD resolution, 720p resolution. That's 1280 by 720. That's the format that I'm using to record the podcast. So it's crystal clear when you watch it, a beautiful way to watch the podcast in exactly the way it was designed to be watched. If you'd like more information on becoming a mobile member, visit our website. You can find out more information at themobileclassroom.com/members. For me, I started using Evernote just to keep notes in, but it quickly became a central repository. If I'm walking down the street and I see something interesting, I can take a picture. It will save that into an Evernote folder. I can think of something I need to save for later. I can speak it into my mobile device, into my iPhone. My iPhone will save that audio into a folder that I can listen to later. I could create to-do lists and put them into a note and save them that way. So it becomes not only a central repository, but now it also becomes more of a workflow for what I'm doing. I can have multiple folders with different types of notes in every folder, saving different types of text and audio and pictures and website information into different folders, and really making it a very central place for me to go in an organized way to see what I need to do in my workflow. Because I am doing this with my mobile device on my desktop and all of that is synchronizing automatically through the cloud, then it makes it a very easy way to store anything no matter what I'm doing or where I am. So I could be driving along and talking into a microphone. I could be walking down the street and taking a picture of something that interests me, an advertisement, something on a bus, something that I see in my hand. If somebody gives me an itinerary, it's only in paper, I could take a picture of that and save it in Evernote. So there's a lot of capabilities for storing everything I can think of and put it into this Evernote capability. And ultimately, I would like to be able to have people who are familiar with that particular piece of information, and I would like to share it with them. Maybe I want to have a public folder I share with the world and a private folder where people can actually go into my notes and edit my notes, and we can collaborate together. You have complete control over those things with Evernote, and we're going to learn all about that today and much more. In Evernote, you can create notes in a lot of different ways. Let's start at the very beginning. Let's say that you've already gone to the Evernote website. Let's look at that really quick. Here is the Evernote website. You can go to the Evernote website and get started. You can create a login and get a username and password so that you can log into the Evernote website. We'll come back to the website in just a moment, but what I want to show you is what you can do with the client, because now once you have Evernote, you can install it onto your desktop, whether you're Windows or Mac, whether you have a mobile phone. You can put a Evernote application on your mobile device, your BlackBerry, your iPhone. A lot of different types of formats that are supported, a lot of different mobile devices are supported, and now have that in one place with that one account that's synchronized between all of them. Let's look at the Windows client, which looks very similar also to the Macintosh client, and see what capabilities are in there for storing information. This is the Evernote client. You'll notice right at the top, you have a number of different options you can do. You can create new notes. You can look at all the notes, delete, email, print notes. got a lot of capabilities there for managing that piece. I only have one notebook. This is as if I was to install this right from the beginning. This is what it looks like. This is my mobile classroom notebook, and I have just one notebook that was created automatically with my username, my Evernote username in here. And Evernote automatically puts a note in there to get you started that says, "Welcome to Evernote." This note is selected, and on the right side of the screen, it shows me a preview of that note. It gives you the title of the notebook that it is listed in, when it was created and updated, a latitude and longitude for the note, which is an interesting one. We'll come back to that in a moment. Where this is from, the Evernote website, I can also add tags to this information as well. If there are images inside of this note, when the image is synchronized to the Evernote servers will perform an optical character recognition of the image, and it will find all the text in there and also index that information. So if you were to do a search, it would also search through the text that was in an image. That becomes pretty useful. We'll look at some of that later. And here's the note itself, and you can see all the information that's in here, all of the pieces of information that are here and everything we can do. I can edit this note. I can change the fonts. I can add different pieces. I can email this note. It now becomes something I can work with. And if I wanted to change any aspect of that, I could. There's also tags in here. We'll talk about tags in a bit as well, but that's yet another way to organize your workflow, manage the information that's in here, and allow you quick access to the things that are important to you. Let's create a new note. So right at the top of the screen is an option for a new note. It creates an untitled note right here and the blank note. And I can create a new title for this. This is a new note. And I can say what notebook I'd like that to be in. Currently, I only have one notebook. So that is essentially a folder, just as if you had grabbed a notebook and off your desk, and it should contain things that are similar to that notebook, whatever you've got in there. Maybe it's a miscellaneous notebook. Maybe it's a Project X, Project Y, Project Z. You can configure this and manage it any way you'd like. I can put the author name in here so that if other people were to gain access to this note, they'd know who wrote this note to begin with. And I can put my name into this list when it was created. I could put the longitude and latitude manually into this. If you're doing this on a mobile device and you have a GPS built into that, that will automatically be added to the note. So later on, when you look at that note, you can see exactly when you made that particular note and where. It's interesting, if I was doing this in a car, I've created many different Evernotes while I was traveling. Someone else was driving. I'm in the passenger seat. I went back and I looked at all the notes for the folder, and you see these little dots that are created along the interstate as we were driving along. Not only do I know when I created the note, I know exactly where I was when that note was created. That becomes really useful if you're doing a tagging of information for pictures. You want to know, where did I take that picture? Well, it's geotagged. You have the latitude and longitude right as part of the note. And in this note, I can type information into this. I can create other pieces of information, change the text formats. I can even do things like create to-do lists in here. I can hit a button here and say, organize. I can create a new line here and add another checkbox and say, tagged information, and I can create a third one here. Complete the test. And these boxes become check marks. And when you synchronize, you click the synchronize button, it takes everything in the note that you were created and everything else you've done and synchronizes it in the cloud. So now that note is synchronized up on the Evernote server. Also, if I have a mobile device, that note is now immediately available to me on my mobile device. So now you can start to see, no matter what you have with you or what you're doing, your notes will always be updated and always with you. It's a great way to save information in here and to quickly create a new note. Let's say it's a little bit more complicated than that. We're browsing the web and we're seeing information. Let's flip over to our web browser. In the web browser, you may see information on a web page you might want to save. So last week in episode 24, we were doing mind mapping, and maybe this information was really interesting for you. We can highlight everything that we see there, and if I right mouse click, of course, I can copy that information. I can also flip back to my Evernote now, and I might want to create a new note, and in that note, let's paste this information right in. I'm going to click the paste button. And it's going to take everything that I have on that website and put it in here. Not only did it capture the text, of course, but the graphic was also put in here. And here's another thing that was interesting is that whatever website I was on, the entire URL was also automatically added to the note. So now I can find things on very deeply hidden within certain web pages, and I see a bit of text that's really important to me, and I want to save that for later. And I don't want to create a bookmark for this. That's not exactly what I want to do. I just want to save that data and so that I have it available. I don't want to have to rely that that website's going to be available to me later, but I would like to know where I got it from. So here's a great combination. I have not only the text from the website, I have the exact URL. And if this was further into the mobile classroom, I would have the much larger URL associated with this. It doesn't just capture the domain name, I capture everything about the URL. And of course, this can always be edited at this point as well. And be able to add on other information onto this. If I can put other notes on here, save this for later, and then be able to get other pieces of information that's useful for me. So a very quick and easy way not only to grab data from websites, but have a path back to where you actually got it from. The web's a big place, and now I'm able to not only to save that data, but also index it and have more information for later. If you use a mobile device with a camera, then you know how easy it is to grab a picture and now you've stored it for later. But with just the mobile device itself, it's difficult to organize those things. Well, if you're running the Evernote client on your mobile device, you can take pictures directly from Evernote, or you can take pictures that you've had previously and save them into Evernote. That makes it very easy to synchronize and keep things tracked that way. You can also take images that you've got from the web that someone has sent you over email or in other ways, and also store that information into Evernote. Let's do some of that. Here's an image that I have. This happens to be in paint.net, and I can grab everything here. I can do a Control-A to select everything that's in this particular image. You can see there's a lot of detailed networking information there, and I want to copy that information to my clipboard. Now I can go right back into Evernote. I can create a new note and say this is the network diagram, and I can right mouse click right in here and paste in the image. So even though this isn't text, I could still save this for later. It becomes an image that I can then annotate, network diagram for tomorrow's meeting. And now I've got that available. I can start printing things out, emailing it to other people, add other text to this. When we go to the meeting, I can add to the text that we have here. I can specify where I'd like to make modifications. And if this is on a shared folder, I can collaborate with others. So you can see by taking and grabbing information and storing it in Evernote, I've now got more flexibility. What if I don't have my computer with me? I'm at lunch and somebody says, what were you doing with that network diagram? Well, I've got my mobile device. I can pop that up and show you exactly what it looks like and some of the notes we made associated with that. And if at lunch we have some ideas, we can put it right into our mobile device, hit the sync button, and now it shows up on my desktop when I get back to my office. One thing you'll also notice on here is where it says image search data not available. If I synchronize this image now, it is going to be authenticated, synchronizing to the server database, and now that image is going to be on the Evernote server. At that point, Evernote looks at the image to determine, is there any text inside of this image? And if there is, let me index it and I'll save it for later. That optical character recognition, or OCR capabilities, now allows me later on when I resynchronize, this image search information, once it's done on Evernote side, will be available. There will be data available for this, and I can do searches, maybe even for that very specific IP address, and have Evernote identify that and find that image for me, even though it didn't start as text. I'm now really easy to search through this and find exactly what I was looking for. Another note that you may have noticed on this top toolbar is an ink note, and this allows just another way to save information to Evernote. If I click ink note there, and I'm going to double click and make this full screen so you can really see it. Here's the entire note that is an ink note. Now this is not text. This is something where you might want to draw on the screen and do things with. You've got a pen, you've got a pencil, and you've got something you can cut out pieces of this if you would like to. So I can use a pencil and I can draw things on the screen. It's not fantastically easy to draw things with a mouse, but you can do things like create a star on the screen, for instance. You can draw circles and create diagrams. You can see I am not the best artist in the world. Now, fortunately, Evernote's thought of this and said, let's create this little option here that smooths things out for you. So you could go here and draw another star. Let's make this one as just awful looking star. But when I let up on it, it makes everything straight. So even someone like me who's drawing with a mouse, which clearly this was not the best way to draw using Evernote, I can draw with a mouse and it will put this on the screen and neaten things up with that particular image that I'm working with and make some of those a little bit smoother when I start drawing that out. And that's something now I might want to show that to someone later. If I don't like the ones I did before, I can take my little eraser that I have. Notice it's this little X-Acto knife, and I can highlight the area that really does need to get deleted. And now it deletes the things that I put up there before and cleans things up a bit. If I don't like where I put things on the screen, I have a lasso that I can then grab things on the screen, just do a circle around it. It'll find those pieces, and now I can take that entire section and move it somewhere else. This is another way to just create collaboration functions. I can now save this image. I can draw things out on the screen. If you have a tablet, the Evernote website has some options for you that you could use to have a tablet and a stylus and actually draw. So if you are a lot more artistically inclined than I am, it may be a good way to take information from your free form writing and put it right into an Evernote option here, a note that you can have and then save later into Evernote. There's another really interesting way to get information from your computer and have it directly put into Evernote. And when you have the Evernote client installed and up and running, the print screen key is now dedicated for Evernote. If you hit print screen, notice that it puts a crosshair on the screen. It says click and drag to clip a portion of the screen. So you can choose exactly what you're seeing on the screen. And when you let up, it creates a Evernote note that has exactly what you are looking at right there. I'm going to double click and make this full screen so you can see it. There's our web page. It's just an image. The whole thing is an image. I would never be able to copy and paste that exactly the way it looked, but because I stored it in Evernote, it's now in exactly that format. And if I want to go back later and see what was it that I saw on that website, it shows me exactly what that was. Under my Tools pull-down menu, there is an option setting. If you don't like that hotkey, you want to use print screen for something else, or you'd like to use a different key for capturing information, you can change all of that here right in the Evernote options. Now that we've got all of this information at Evernote, how can we refine some of that information out of there? How can we organize what's there and put it into a workflow and make it much easier for us to work with? Let's look at some of Evernote's more advanced capabilities for indexing, storing, and being able to find information within these notes. Here's our Evernote client. There are a number of things in these notes that we could make a little bit tighter and a little bit more detailed that might help us later on when we're trying to find more information. We could, of course, put the author name if we want to be sure if there are multiple people working in this particular notebook because we're sharing and collaborating. That's one way to know exactly who created this. If this was created on a mobile device, our latitude and longitude may already be in there, but you could, of course, manually edit the latitude and longitude with this yourself. There's another relatively important piece of this too. Not only is all the text in all of your notes indexed, it's searchable, but you could create something called tags. Tags are very specific names that you would assign to this particular note. And it's a tag is something you might want to use in other places. And so you would create this grouping of tags that would allow you to find information much faster. Think of it as kind of a meta search. You're already creating what this particular note, the subject matter of this note, or what value this note might have into a particular type of text. So let's say that this is a network diagram. I know it's just a star in a circle, but let's use our imagination, people. And now I've created a tag called network. Now I also had another network diagram down here that didn't have a tag on it. Let's also call this one the network. And notice as I type, it says you already have a network tag. Do you want to use that one? You could, of course, choose that name as well. And now I've got other things here. This is a tag from a website. Let's say that this one is specific to a module of our training program. And let's say another note up here might have a module as well. There, it's already filling out the module name for me. So now you'll notice out here on the left side toolbar that you now have some tags that were created, one called module. And if you click that, it only shows you the notes with that tag. Here's another one called network. Now, people use tags in a lot of different ways. This really is something that's very free form, and it's very specific to how you might work. Some people don't use any tags at all. Some people use very, very specific detailed tags about what they're doing. And it's going to depend on how you'd like to use Evernote. If you want to take every major concept of a note that you've created and make a tag for it, you may have many, many, many tags that you work with. And you may want to do that with every single note, which means you'd be able to really click one single button in here in your tag list and be able to pull up every single note associated with that. When you get into that level of detail, it may be more applicable just to use the standard search. If you just wanted to find everything related with a network, you could then create a tag there called just network. And in fact, let me get rid of that network tag. And there's our search just for network. In this case, there's only 2 things with network associated with it. Or click the X and get rid of all of those things altogether. So it depends on what you'd like to do. This may be a good point to stop, take a step back and think, how do I want to use tags? Do I want to do it by project? Do I want to create a folder by project? And within the projects, perhaps have different pieces, different department names. And then I can create tags for that. And when I click a tag, it will show me all of the notes for all of the departments, regardless of what folder they happen to be in. So think about the way you would use that and how you would implement tags, and you'll find that you'll be changing, adding, and modifying the way you do that as you go along, but at least you're approaching this from the very beginning with a concept of how tags could really help you. If you get to where you're using Evernote, you've started creating a lot of different kinds of notes, and you've got a lot of different tags in here. You've pulled information up from different places. You've got different URLs. What you may find is you have a search that's in here that's exactly the way you'd like it to be. Maybe you've created a search based on a tag, and within that tag, you've created a search just for a particular piece of information. So let's say we're looking at all the tags that have the word module in there. And in that module, I'm trying to find everything that has the word digital in it. That's a great search for me. I have a feeling I'm going to want to have that search available over and over and over again. If you pull to your file pull down menu, you'll notice there's an option in here for a new saved search. And it says that this search is going to be everything that contains the word digital tagged with module. And I'm going to call this our digital module search. And if I click OK, I now have on the left side a saved search that combines not only words, but tags in this particular case. And every time I would want to see that search, let's get rid of everything. And let's look at all notebooks that I have here and get rid of my tagged view. We'll clear everything out. Now, if I click digital module, it immediately does the search for me without me having to type anything else. A very quick way to save things that you know you're going to want to use later. There's some other great searches in here as well. You can search by attribute. So when was this created? When was it last modified? What does it contain? It has images and audio and ink notes and encrypted text and to-do items and unfinished to-do items. Those little checkboxes become very useful there. And you can see, where did this come from? Did I paste it in from email? Did I drop it in from a web page? How did I get it into this link? There's other ways to do that as well. Up to this point, we've seen how we can create notes for ourselves and store them for ourselves and search through things on our own. But there's also amazing capabilities in Evernote to be able to see other people's notebooks and to share your notebooks with others. Let's see how you do that. You won't find any of the sharing capabilities in the Evernote client that's on Windows or on Mac or on your iPad or iPhone or BlackBerry or those other devices, at least not now. Currently, you can access the sharing capabilities from the website only. So you'll want to go log into the web front end, and you'll notice the web front end here is very similar to the client that we were just using in Windows. We've got our notebooks on one side. We've got tags, attributes, saved searches, all the things that we were doing before. And everything that we've put in here has also been added onto that left side menu. Again, we're fully synchronized on the web, on our clients, on our desktops, on our mobile devices, and everything. And you can also drill down into any of these notes to see what's going on. I can click my network diagram, and sure enough, there's the network diagram with the text that I added at the bottom. Now, let's say that we wanted to share this mobile classroom folder with others. You have this option here for sharing. And if you've never set up anything in sharing before, it says that you can click Sharing Setup to share your notebooks with others. And when you link a shared notebook into your account, it will also appear there. So I'm going to click Sharing Setup. And you can see you have two options in here. One is for my notebooks, and the other is for linked notebooks. Now, if you've created a notebook, maybe you have one where you have some public information you'd like to make it available, you can click Start Sharing, and you've got two options here. You can share it with everybody in the world, or you can share it with individual people. If you share it with anybody in the world, everybody in the world will be able to view that particular notebook. They will not be able to edit anything, but it will be publicly available. You can click Start Sharing with the World, put a description in for that URL. You can even specify the exact URL that will be and put the different sorting options inside of it. If you want to just choose a particular individual, you want to collaborate and have them change some of the notes within there, you can add this piece that will email invitations to individual people where they can view the notebook or modify the notebook. And notice that you have to be a premium subscriber to activate this feature. There are a number of premium options that Evernote has. Let me scroll down here to the premium view. We've just been using the free client up to this point. A lot of great capabilities in the free client, but you'll notice for $5 a month, $45 a year, you can have a larger upload allowance. You can do file synchronization of any file type, not just images, audio, ink, and PDF files. You can search within PDFs. That's a really nice capability. You've got historical notes. So you could see if you changed a note, what did it look like yesterday? You can go back to previous versions of that, and you can have offline notebooks on your iPhone, your iPad, or your iPod. So some nice capabilities there, and some other nice features too. And for $5 a month, probably not a bad deal. Looking at the sharing of the individual piece, though, you can see where you can view, modify, and you can also require a login to Evernote to be able to see that. If you're sharing this with individuals that may not be logged into Evernote, they don't have to be to see these pieces. If you want to be able to have them view and to be logged into Evernote, you can do that as well. Just another extra piece of security that you can add on to this. Now, what if there's a notebook from somewhere else that's out there on the web that you'd like to share? Let's see how you'd manage that. Interestingly enough, Evernote has their entire knowledge base in an Evernote folder. Makes perfect sense, doesn't it? If you go to the support section of the website, there's an option here for knowledge base. And when you click the knowledge base, it takes you into the Evernote shared notebook. There are 80 different notes in here that you can search through. Some nice capabilities there. You could search through all of these pieces, but let's say you'd like to have this immediately available on your web page, on your web front end for Evernote, and that you don't want to have to go drilling down into the knowledge base piece. You've got this option on the upper right side that says link to my account. And if you click that, it says, great, we will link this to this shared notebook. What would you like to call this particular name? And I'm going to call this Evernote Support Knowledge Base. And I'm going to link this notebook. And now it has linked that notebook and I can view it from my Evernote front end. It just allows me now to create and easily find information that I would like to see. And under my sharing option, you can see that I am one click away now from the Evernote Support Knowledge Base. So all of the notebooks from somewhere else that you'd like to share now are immediately available to you very easily just in your regular Evernote front end. That's some of the details about Evernote. We've now learned how to save information into Evernote, organize it and tag it in different ways, search through the information to find what you're looking for, and ultimately share information with others or see what others are doing, be able to collaborate together. If you'd like to watch any of our Mobile Classroom podcasts, you can visit us on our website at themobileclassroom.com. If you'd like to get updates from that website, you can join our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/mobileclassroom. And if you'd like to send me a note directly, you can always send me an email at james@themobileclassroom.com. Thanks for joining us this week. We'll see you next time on The Mobile Classroom.